Tracy Sable. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, Election Day. A preview of what to expect with control of the U.S. House and Senate at stake. Fight for the unborn. We are tracking 5 states where abortion is on the ballot. Hispanic voters. How the Catholic faith may influence one highly sought group at the ballot box. And religious liberty. A Christian web designer's objection to one state's anti-discrimination law. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. Our top story tonight, it is Election Day in the United States with a balance of power in Congress at stake. All 435 U.S. House seats and 35 Senate seats are up for grabs, and many are toss-ups. In some states, voters are deciding ballot initiatives, including abortion access. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales is at House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy's election party in downtown Washington, D.C. Eric?
Well, thank you so much, Tracy. You know, good evening to you. Anticipation is very much upbeat right now as Leader McCarthy's event here. He is not expected to attend until later on this evening, but right now the polls remain open and will continue to remain open. We are expecting very heavy turnout. If Leader McCarthy If Republicans do, in fact, take control of the House, then Leader McCarthy will, in fact, be Speaker of the House. Now, I did speak with him earlier about his commitment to America and the goals that he hopes Republicans can accomplish.
And we produced a plan for a new direction for America. And listening to him, we realized that they're asking the question, can they afford it? They want an economy that's strong. They've just now lost a full month's of wages because inflation going up. Stop the inflation. Lower the gas price.
House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy tells me the Republicans' commitment to America will hold government accountable for its actions, starting with the Biden administration.
You have no check and balance right now. No hearings about where the origin of COVID is. Where's the hearing about what happened in Afghanistan? Why didn't we list the military? Why did we have to have new 13 more Gold Star families? What about the DOJ going after parents simply because they want to go to a school board meeting? Why would you call them a terrorist?
Voters are also weighing in on the future of abortion in 5 states. Michigan, California, and Vermont all have ballot initiatives to codify abortion on demand. Montana, which currently protects abortion rights, would bring criminal penalties and fines on doctors in cases of born-alive infants. Meanwhile, Kentucky voters are deciding whether to ban abortions. Over in the Senate, a half a dozen states are in play to decide who controls power come January. Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson hopes it's a good night for the GOP.
It'll send a very strong signal to our Democrat colleagues that their policies aren't working, that they'll actually work with us to reduce deficit spending, end their war on fossil fuel.
And by the way, it could be several days before we find out the true results of the elections in several races, one of which is Arizona and Maricopa County. They're having some problems with ballot manipulation counting, and also possibly some ballots may have been counted twice, so they're looking into that. And then also, Democrat John Fetterman filed a federal lawsuit late last night to get mail-in ballots counted, even those with missing dates and wrong dates on them, which is against the law to count. So he filed a federal lawsuit on that. So again, it could be several days before we find out some very key races. In downtown Washington, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
President Joe Biden is not on the ballot today, but the election could be seen as a referendum on his policies. And if Republicans win big, that could have a huge impact on the second half of his first term in office, including investigations into his family and administration. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports.
Good evening, Tracy. Last night, President Joe Biden told reporters he's feeling optimistic about this election day. But if Republicans win big tonight, things in this town could change in a hurry. No longer one-party control. As Americans across the country cast their ballots on this election day, President Joe Biden tweets, "There is no quit in America. We just have to remember who we are." Just last night, coming back to the White House from a campaign event, reporters asked,
"Can Democrats win the House?"
I think it's going to be tough, but I think we can. I think we'll win the Senate. I think the House is tougher.
And today, Vice President Kamala Harris tweeted this video.
Hey everybody, today is election day. So go to iwillvote.com, find your polling place, and please get out and vote.
Meanwhile, her husband, Second Gentleman Douglas Emhoff, was, according to the White House, scheduled today to join NARAL Pro-Choice America for a virtual political event to discuss the importance of protecting reproductive rights. While Lila Rose, the founder of pro-life group Live Action, tweets the day before the midterms, if Democrats lose tomorrow after spending over $200 million promoting their message on abortion, it will be the clearest possible statement that Americans reject the violent anti-human agenda of the abortion industry. And even before today is over, there's already talk of 2024, depending on how well the GOP does in the midterms. Former President Donald Trump could use the momentum to throw his hat into the ring for another run at the Oval Office.
I'm going to be making a very big announcement on Tuesday, November 15th at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida.
President Biden was also asked last night what awaits him if Republicans control Congress and what his new reality will be in Washington, to which the president replied, more difficult. For now, it's wait and see what the ballot counting reveals. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Well, the outcome of several of tonight's races could be in the hands of Hispanic voters. Many Hispanic voters say they are fed up with the left's focus on abortion and transgender policies. Also of concern, the economy, crime, and the crisis at the southern border. And joining us tonight with more on the Hispanic vote is Sevilla Korn, political strategist and former White House deputy assistant to President Trump. Jenny, welcome. Great to have you with us tonight. Let's get right to it. It looks like issues for Hispanic voters are pretty much the same as most Americans. What are you seeing?
Well, good evening. It's so wonderful to be with you. Election day is so exciting, and to see democracy in action. On the Latino vote, it is a swing vote, and it's swinging to the Republican Party. We see the gains made by the GOP and President Trump continue to grow. He received 38% of the Hispanic vote in the last election, and we're just building upon that because Latinos want leaders who are going to champion the American dream and not destroy it.
And Jenny, I know you say that the Democrats have taken advantage of the Latino community and that they have insulted Latinos. Explain that to us.
Right. Well, Democrats are bleeding support from the Latino community because they have not delivered for them. We are about results, and we have had no results from the Biden administration. Like you said, Latinos are like every other community, and we are suffering under the weight of record gas and grocery prices, lower wages, rampant crime, disastrous border policies, labor shortages, and progressive agenda in our children's education. And I could go on. Latinos are Americans, and those are our top issues.
And Jenny, what we are seeing is really certainly a shift in voting trends among Hispanics. If you could chalk it up to maybe one or two issues, what do you think that would be?
The economy, but it's four issues: the economy, inflation, crime, and the border crisis. Also, the Democrats have completely taken for granted the Latino community, and the Republicans have really done a huge effort, from the Republican National Committee to all the candidates, in going into our communities. What matters to us is that you come to our community, you talk to us about the issues, and you listen to the issues that we care about, and not talk about other issues that don't make a difference in our life or that are not affecting us at a higher priority level. But here's another little secret. Hispanics have always been a swing vote. In 2004, President Bush got 44% of the Hispanic vote. Then in 2014, many governors and U.S. senators received anywhere between 40 and 52% of the Latino vote. And then again in 2020, President Trump got 38%. We are going to see those gains because the Democrats have ignored us and the Republicans have paid attention to us, and we align with the right issues.
And there was something else we want to talk about, a recent Pew Research poll indicating that Republican Latinos are actually more motivated to vote than their Democratic peers. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that and voter enthusiasm?
Right. So again, because of the issues, because of the economy, and because Republicans are paying attention to our community, going into places in Texas and California and Florida, aligning on the issues, not just economy, crime, and the border, but even issues of socialism and on our faith. We truly are people of faith. If you see the three Latina Republicans who are running in the Rio Grande, Monica de la Cruz, Cassie Garcia, Mayra Flores, one of the biggest tenets of what they're talking about is their faith, freedom, and their families. And so those are the things that attract us to the party and to who we're going to be voting for this cycle. And they're just tired. They're tired of the Democrats. Democrats are not giving us results. So we're going to go elsewhere.
And we have about probably a minute or so left, Jenny, but quickly, any final thoughts?
Yes. One, it is so important that all of us go out to vote, talk to your friends, your family, your neighbors. Don't take for granted that they're going out to vote because there's still hours left in the day. And you're going to see that the Latinos are going to make a huge difference in some of these critical races, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. So look forward to seeing those results tomorrow.
Well, Jenny, great talking with you. Thank you so much for your insights tonight.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including a new case before the Supreme Court, pitting one state's anti-discrimination laws against freedom of speech, and how evangelical voters are expected to vote in the midterms. Thanks for staying with us. In New York, the Diocese of Rochester hopes to reach a settlement with victims of sexual abuse. A motion was filed in court last week to pay $55 million to 475 survivors. Bishop Salvador Mateno outlined the offer in a letter to the faithful. He also renewed a sincere apology for violations of the church's sacred trust by clergy, religious, and laity. Well, history has shown that the votes of evangelical Christians can help turn the tide of an entire election. And while issues like crime, immigration, and the economy drew millions to the polls today, what about those voters of faith? Joining us tonight with his insights is Timothy Head, Executive Director of the Faith and Freedom Coalition. Timothy, welcome. Great to be with you today. I have to say, it really is hard to overstate the importance of the Christian voting bloc. As you know, they helped to push President Trump over that finish line back in 2016. That said, what do you expect to see in this election as far as turnout?
Well, that's a great question, and honestly, I think that you're exactly right. That it's hard to overstate the importance and the centrality of the Christian vote and the faith vote in general. So bear in mind that at this point, between 72 and 75% of Republicans basically identify with some sort of faith tradition. And so you're really talking about the largest single voting bloc in all of American politics. Much larger than the labor vote, much larger than LGBT minority votes. The Christian vote is the largest constituency in all of American politics, and it does truly sway all elections, regardless whether it be president, governor, senate, etc.
Yeah, and the right to life is almost always on top of mind for Christian voters. However, now that Roe has been overturned, do you think there has been a shift in their priorities?
Well, you wouldn't say a shift in their priorities. So bear in mind, Christians still have mortgages. Christians still have jobs. They still have to feed their families. Have to get to and from places and fill up their tanks with gas. And so economic issues always are going to be a priority. But it has taken about 3 or 4 months, I think, for most Christian voters to really kind of begin to kind of sink their teeth into the fact that truly the Dobbs decision has made life a state issue again. So that means governors matter, state senators matter, state House of Representatives matter, sometimes even DAs can matter on these issues. So it's made local elections that much more of a priority for a lot of Christian and pro-life voters.
And I'm curious, what do you think is maybe the top focus for people of faith on this election day? And also, what do you hope they keep in mind as they head to the polls, if they haven't done so already?
Well, that's your caveat is a fair one, because really across the country we're actually seeing huge early voting performances by all voters, including so far pro-life and pro-faith voters. But I would say, economic issues paired with pro-life, pro-faith, pro-family policymakers, that ensures a stronger educational system for our kids. It also kind of helps to sequester some of this wokeness, and so it's important for us to remain vigilant, even if we're not necessarily voting on Supreme Court or president, kinds of issues right now. Midterm or off election cycles are just as important for voters of faith as any other election cycle.
And we have about a minute so are left, but wondering what races that you are focusing on. What are you watching the most?
Well, I think the question, or the sort of suspense in the U.S. House is probably how much of a margin Republicans end up coming out of tonight with. That's looking like either a large or an extremely large margin is the short version there. But the Senate is definitely still in question. And so in the Georgia Senate race, obviously with Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock, the Nevada Senate race. Obviously the Arizona Senate race, but interestingly, even the New Hampshire and the Washington State Senate races are kind of narrowing, as well as Pennsylvania. So there really are probably 6 elections that will truly dictate the swing of the U.S. Senate coming up. And yet again, in all of those, the evangelical and Catholic vote will ultimately probably be the deciding factor.
Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out. Timothy, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. God bless you.
Of course. Thank you so much. God bless.
A Christian web designer who opposes making wedding websites for same-sex couples says her legal battle is about the First Amendment. Laurie Smith claims Colorado's anti-discrimination law violates her right to free speech over same-sex marriage, which she maintains is contrary to her Christian values. The Supreme Court has said it would review only the free speech issue in the case. Arguments are scheduled for next month. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, it is not just for show as China puts its military aircraft on display, plus helping those who are vulnerable when natural disasters strike. We are back tonight with some of the stories making headlines around the world. The Vatican has accepted the resignation of an auxiliary bishop in Germany. The church leader from the Diocese of Aachen was found guilty of embezzling around $128,000 from a woman suffering from dementia. He was sentenced to 9 months suspended jail time and a fine. In Nicaragua, President Daniel Ortega's Socialist Party has politically dominated the country by winning all local elections. And now the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights is expressing concerns about free and fair elections there. In Poland, 3 men have been acquitted after toppling a statue of a Catholic priest over the summer. The priest, who died in 2010, was suspected of sexual abuse. The 3 men said they took down the statue for the good of the community. Afterwards, they turned themselves in to police. While China conducted an air show to display its newest civilian and military aircraft, China is trying to compete with Boeing and Airbus in an effort to improve its position as the 4th largest arms exporter in the world after the U.S., Russia, and France. The jets included a stealth fighter, an unmanned vehicle, and a refueling tanker. Well, world leaders are meeting in Egypt this week to discuss concerns over the climate, and a group of religious sisters is asking attendees not to forget the most vulnerable. Amid the start of the gathering in Egypt, the International Union of Superiors General, which represents over 600,000 religious sisters, released a statement saying in part, quote, "It is necessary to listen carefully to the voices of those affected by environmental disasters." Joining us now from Rome is Sister Sheila Kinsey, coordinator of Sowing Hope for the Planet. Sister Kinsey, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Can you tell us more about this meeting and also the statement that you published?
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about that, because we're talking about our way of expressing for everyone what we come to think and what we feel and what we want to bring about in our work with the planet, with all of creation that exists in our planet and with our cosmos. So this statement was developed around three principles. One is dealing with the whole idea of the environment, as well as the persons and how we affect one another, and bringing in the indigenous people. How can we listen to those who are on the marginalized, listen to their wisdom, and to bring it forth? So we have begun really focusing on this issue from 2018, and then following up then really wanting to actualize the Laudato Si, and then finding a way to really promote the Laudato Si action platform. So it's a way of really making the statement that this is what we want to be noted for, and this is what we want to share with others, and really engage others in being with us as we move forward in making this a healthy planet, a planet that we want everyone to thrive on and to live in a way that benefits all of us.
And I'm curious, why did you feel the need to speak out for the most vulnerable? And also, has there been any response so far?
Well, as religious, we are in all of the areas around the world, and so we're listening to those who are in places that are very vulnerable and who are marginalized. And so we're not only wanting to speak for them, we find that their voice is what is important. And so raising that up, because they are the ones that are most affected by what's happening with the climate, for example. And so their voice needs to be put into all of what's happening. And we all are one family. We have one common home. And because we are on the verge of dealing with a crisis in terms of what's happening with the changes in the environment, you can look at the catastrophes, the famine, the floods, the fact that we're having trouble just even growing food, for example, and the ways that we are finding that we need to counter this with a way that really is helpful and not just use synthetic ways of dealing with issues.
Sister, we're almost out of time, but I'm wondering quickly, can you tell us more about the International Union of Superiors General, and also what are some of the projects that you're working on?
The International Union of Superiors Generals is comprised of the leaders, the international leaders of religious women's congregations, about 2,000 of them, and that really looks at about 600,000 religious sisters. So as we look at the Sowing Hope for the Planet, we are really encouraging what's happening on the local level. So we're looking at issues related to water, we're looking at the overuse of plastics, we're looking at our own lifestyles in terms of a simpler lifestyle. How can our economy, we have many that are divesting from fossil fuels and are reinvesting in alternative energy sources. So how can we partner with those who are in the north, with those that are in the south, so that we can make a way of working together, as a family. So there are many issues related to all of these that we need to capture and to organize together in a way that we educate one another and we find it reflective in our own spirituality and our way of life. That the way that we treat one another, the way we treat the environment has an impact on how we treat our God and how we relate to God in a way that really is life-giving for us and for others.
Sister, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We really appreciate it. God bless you. And finally tonight, for the second time this year, the full moon disappeared into a total eclipse. The so-called blood moon was visible before sunrise throughout North America. Then the moon was seen after sunset across the Pacific, Asia, and Australia as it appeared reddish, passing through the Earth's shadow. This year's previous total lunar eclipse was back in May. The next one will be in 2025. Pretty cool stuff. Well, we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Join us for live election updates tonight on EWTN. Good night and God bless.